This is a horrible place to be. I truly believe it's a survival of the unfittest these days. I have to hurry and not let the rock fall back downhill. I've got to go start to push it up. These aren't the words of a young actor struggling to make his mark. They're from Kevin Costner in 2024. Not Kevin Costner, the Oscar-winning director. Not the golden era icon who redefined the American leading man. Not the star who once earned $20 million per film, with the power to greenlight a project just by attaching his name. No, this is Kevin Costner, at the bottom of the mountain, drained and defeated, staring up at a summit he once conquered, and now can barely see through the dust and debris of a crumbling dream. The Hollywood Reporter recently released one of the most revealing and devastating profiles in the career of any major movie star in recent memory. A deep, brutal look at a man who bet everything on a single project. A man who built an empire with his own hands, then tried to use those same hands to salvage its ruins. It's a story about ego and ambition, about loyalty pushed past its limits, about betrayal, some self-inflicted, some from people he once trusted, about how a comeback can turn into a collapse when the wrong line is crossed, and how chasing a dream can become a form of self-destruction. Kevin Costner, the last of the classic movie stars, has fallen, and now he's asking Hollywood for help. But Hollywood has stopped answering his calls. The unraveling didn't begin with failure. It began with tension, and eventually, conflict. The set of Yellowstone in Season 3 wasn't just a workplace, it was a pressure cooker. One of the most popular shows on television, a sprawling neo-Western drama that had revitalized Costner's career. His performance as John Dutton, the patriarch of the Dutton family, had captivated a new generation of viewers who barely remembered Dances with Wolves or The Bodyguard. But behind the scenes, things weren't going smoothly. According to multiple sources who were present, the situation came to a head during a key scene involving Costner and Wes Bentley, who plays Jamie Dutton, John's adopted son torn between loyalty and resentment. The script had been finalized, the dialogue locked by showrunner Taylor Sheridan, one of the most powerful figures in modern television. But Costner wasn't satisfied. He began directing Bentley, literally, telling him where to stand, how to say the lines, what to feel. This wasn't the behavior of a collaborative actor. It was the behavior of someone who believed his instincts mattered more than the script, more than the showrunner, more than the director. Bentley pushed back. He was respectful, but firm. He knew his character, and he trusted Sheridan's writing. What followed wasn't just a disagreement. It was a standoff. Voices rose. Crew members stopped what they were doing. People began to gather, unsure if they were watching a rehearsal or something far more serious. Then Costner stepped forward. Bentley didn't move. Inches apart, eye to eye, the room held its breath. Someone later described it as two bulls in a pen. Security was ready. Other cast members looked around, unsure whether they needed to intervene. It didn't escalate into physical violence, but it came close, too close. The tension didn't disappear after that day. It spread. Crew members whispered. Executives heard stories. And slowly, the idea began to form that Kevin Costner was becoming a problem. Again. That word, again, isn't just gossip. It's a pattern. Kevin Costner's desire for creative control isn't new. It's woven into the DNA of his entire career. Sometimes it has propelled him to greatness, but more often, it has created chaos. In 2001, Costner co-starred with Kurt Russell in 3,000 Miles to Graceland. Two powerful personalities, two visions of how the film should go. Costner clashed repeatedly with Russell over creative choices. Directors and producers were caught in the middle. The tension on set became so disruptive, it overshadowed the film itself. When the movie hit theaters, it flopped, critically and commercially. But the seeds had been planted even earlier. Back in 1993, Costner starred in A Perfect World, directed by none other than Clint Eastwood. At the time, Costner was untouchable, riding high off the massive success of The Bodyguard. But even working with Eastwood, he couldn't help himself. He second-guessed the director, suggested alternative shots, pitched adjustments to scenes. Eastwood, known for his no-nonsense, minimal-take style, wasn't interested. Their relationship soured. The film underperformed. And Costner earned a reputation not as a collaborator, but as a disruptor. Even during the making of Waterworld and The Postman, both famously troubled productions, similar stories emerged, Costner taking over, sidelining directors, rewriting scenes, and ultimately delivering films that were bloated, confused, and financially disastrous. The pattern was clear. Kevin Costner wasn't content being in the story. He needed to be the author of it. So we're left with a difficult question. How does a man who once embodied the spirit of American cinema end up here, alienated, rejected, and struggling to find support for a project he's poured his soul into? This isn't just a story of artistic failure. It's a story of identity. Costner was never just an actor. He was a builder, a creator, someone who believed that his instincts were more than just valid. They were vital. He wasn't like other stars who coasted on charm or charisma. He had a vision for what cinema could be. In Dances with Wolves, he turned that vision into an Oscar-winning masterpiece. But as the years passed and Hollywood changed, Costner remained who he always was. He didn't adapt. He didn't compromise. He doubled down. And when you double down in an industry that moves at the speed of culture, you either end up ahead of your time or left behind by it. For Costner, the turning point was a single word: horizon. That was the word. That was the dream. That was the monster he couldn't stop feeding. Horizon. An American Saga wasn't just a film. It was an epic planned across 4 parts, covering decades of frontier history. For over a decade, he carried the idea with him, talking about it in interviews, pitching it to studios, convincing himself, and others, that it would be his legacy. But no studio wanted to fund something that large, that old-fashioned, that expensive. Westerns, after all, hadn't been bankable for years, and 4 parts? It was madness, so he did what no other A-lister in his position would dare to do. He financed it himself. He mortgaged properties, sold assets, poured over $100 million of his own money into filming Part 1 and Part 2 back-to-back. He cut his role in Yellowstone short to make it happen. He burned bridges with producers and showrunners, and he pushed forward with absolute certainty. He believed so deeply in the film, in the message, in the grandeur of it all, that he couldn't see the risk anymore. Passion had become obsession. Obsession had become delusion. When Horizon Part 1 was released in June 2024, Kevin Costner still believed. He showed up to interviews smiling. He talked about legacy. He told people he felt good. He saw the film not just as a project, but as the reason for his career. But the audience didn't come. The reviews were lukewarm to brutal. Critics called it dated, indulgent, disconnected from modern storytelling. And the box office was catastrophic. An $11 million opening weekend, $38 million worldwide. For a $100 million film, not counting marketing. Part 2, already completed, was scheduled for August. Warner Brothers pulled the release indefinitely. The message was clear. There would be no Part 3, no Part 4. The saga had ended before it truly began. But Costner refused to stop. In interviews, he still speaks about making the 3rd film. He's knocking on doors. He's asking executives to invest. The same man who once had his pick of projects, now asking for scraps. So what now? What happens to Kevin Costner? After all of it, Horizon, Yellowstone, The Clashes, The Lost Fortune, is there still a way back? The people closest to him aren't sure, but few are ready to write him off. He's a survivor, one studio executive said. He's gone through worse and come back stronger. I wouldn't bet against him. It's true. After Waterworld, after The Postman, after years in the wilderness, he returned with Yellowstone and became a cultural force again. But this time, it feels different. This time, he didn't just fail. He lost faith from the very system that once made him a star. And yet, he's still pushing that rock, still straining, still hoping. This is a horrible place to be, he said, but he's still climbing. Whether he makes it back to the top, or whether the rock finally rolls back down and buries him, that's the part no one can predict. But one thing's certain, he won't stop trying. If you found this story compelling, hit that like button, Subscribe for more in-depth Hollywood deep dives, and let us know in the comments. Do you think Kevin Costner has one more comeback in him, or is this the final chapter? Thanks for watching.